Welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Russell Jackman. Vern Glenn is off today. At each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question, and today's theme is baseball. I only stunk a little.
Man, you got to get to another sport for a little bit. We've ground the baseball stuff.
Well, you know what? We just started baseball not too long ago, and I kind of switched between the NBA, and then during football season, we get a little bit more.
Go back to the NBA. Those are the ones I actually know the answers to.
Oh, okay. Well, next week you remind me of that. Yeah, because we're in the playoffs, so that'll be good. And we're hoping that Bobby Evans, former general manager of the San Francisco Giants, is going to join us. So we kind of get his perspective on what's going on in baseball. I want to talk about a couple of things in the next segment or during the show, if we have enough time. Talk about Alex Smith being cleared. That'll be kind of interesting to see how he does. I keep thinking of Joe Theismann, Joe
Theismann didn't have 17 surgeries done.
No, I know. Well, he never came back.
I know, but the 17 surgeries, you'd think the last thing you'd want to do is get back on the field. But
I know.
Stuff.
Yeah, that takes.
We're talking about amputating his leg.
I know that's just that's scary, is what it is.
Yeah, it sure is.
Potential that they might have 15,000 fans at the Chiefs Texans opener. That'll be kind of interesting. Travis Kelce also gets a new contract along with Mr. Kittle. And are the Chiefs the new villains, taking over from where the Patriots were? I mean, they only won one Super Bowl, but apparently they got a little attitude. So we'll talk about that. Excuse me. Let's see if we got a couple of things to go over. But this segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, still providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding close to 7.5% with no losses. That's the important thing. Secured by real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. Check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. Stay with us. We're going to be right back at Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Vern Glenn is off today. We're still trying to get Bobby on the phone. He's kind of in between right now. So before he gets on, let's go ahead and talk a few things. One, Alex Smith, after that terrible leg injury, is cleared to come back after 21 months. I mean, I just can't imagine not being gun shy if I'm him.
He is so lucky he's not a horse.
Yeah, we had to shoot him, put him out of his
Yeah. No, they were talking about amputating his leg. I mean, you would think that if you went through an injury where you could possibly be an amputee, then you would be done with sports. Like the next thing that you would do would be, badminton or you'd be doing
or wrestling,
pool, or you'd be doing ping pong or something. You wouldn't want to get back in there and be a starting quarterback for a team that also, let's face it, the Washington fill in the blanks are going nowhere this year. They're going to win a title. Doesn't matter how good Alex Smith plays.
But there are a lot of teams like that, though. That just
it's
not
true. But if you're Alex Smith, you only have, and you're coming back, you really should be trying to come back for an actual, playoff appearance at the very least.
Yeah, I wonder how long he's been out for 21 months. I wonder how long he could stay out, rehabbing, getting ready for a good team, and be in football shape.
And does the NFL have some sort of obligation here to say, you know what, we appreciate how much you're willing to do this, but we don't want to see you actually have to have your leg removed on the field after a huge hit. I mean, if your leg was this close to being amputated in surgery, if he gets a Theismann-like injury again, or a repeat to what just happened, the tragic level of it might be so bad. I mean, sometimes you'd think maybe the NFL has an obligation to stand back and say, we appreciate your willingness to get in there, but we can't have you get in there. It's just too dangerous.
Well, it's sort of like the CTE, right? I mean, all the protocols when a guy gets a concussion. Also, what if you're an opposing player? You almost really kind of want to back off a little bit.
which is not how football is played.
No.
And I can tell you this: the defensive line guys don't think that way. You know, they are out there to take a guy out, and that's what their job is. That's what they get paid for. They you know, they want to run to the guy and then just poke him with a finger. They're there to make the tackle. Plus, quarterbacks are as protected a position as you can get in any professional sport.
True.
You know. So if Alex is willing to do it and put himself at that risk, then, you know, he's going to have to be a big boy and take it if, you know, he's permanently injured from something like that.
Yeah, you know, it's weird. I mean, if he was if he had not been injured and he just had, let's say, attitude, he doesn't. I'm just saying if he was that kind of guy, you know, then you kind of think, okay, man, guys are going to be gunning for him, you know. But he seems like a relatively nice guy, and then he's got this injury, and so if I'm a defensive lineman, I don't know how much I'm going to look. I mean, even let's say gunning for his leg, right? I mean, there's always that too. If guys has an injury, you sometimes these guys kind of go for that.
That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. You can't tell these linemen that they can't do their jobs because this guy goes back to work even though he's been injured. I mean, so I have a feeling they're going to ignore it.
Well, what do you think happens to the guy who ends up, let's say, really hurting him again? But I mean, it was the first time obviously was just an accident. These things happen.
I hate to say it, I put the blame on Alex Smith. I don't put it on the next defender that hits him hard. Oh, I think we may have a Bobby. I think
we got Bobby on the phone here. And Bobby, just pop on in when you're ready. Looks like it looks like you got in, which is good. Can we hear you okay? Bobby?
Yeah, just make sure you can hear me.
We can hear you just fine. Thanks for joining us. So we have Bobby Evans, former general manager of the San Francisco Giants.
There we go.
Now we can actually see him too. And so, Bobby, I'll introduce you. I don't think you know Russell Jackman, but he's with us. Vern is off today. And we've got a few minutes before we get to our next break. So we thought let's go ahead and just ask. First of all, we'll get into other things, but something that's popped up yesterday that made me think, I got to ask Bobby this question. So Fernando Tatis, he swings on a 3-0 count with bases loaded, hits a grand slam. The Padres were already up like 7-3. It's the 8th inning. And sure enough, the Rangers are, not very happy. And the next guy who gets up gets a pitch thrown behind him. And I'm thinking, if I'm the general manager, I'm going to – how many times you've been in that position where something like that happened where a baseball player, broke the unwritten rule and you're kind of going, uh-oh, what's going to happen to my next player or when this guy gets back up again? Because as a general manager, you got to be thinking about the health of the players, right? So,
without a doubt, I hope I'm clear.
We can hear you.
Or can you hear me?
It's kind of popping in a little bit in and out, but sometimes you're very clear.
Okay.
Yeah. So
gee, so funny.
Yeah, I know. So it's funny. Sometimes Vern has this issue too with being in a certain cell area where the Wi-Fi is not quite as good. So go ahead.
Yeah. Hopefully this is better. Is this more clear now?
Yeah, it is. Huh?
Yeah. I mean, my sense is that, first of all, I mean, baseball is really debating its own unwritten rules right now. I mean, for good reason, right? Because, at some level, I mean, that's an exciting home run. It's a game. It's a blowout. It's kind of funny how much heat he took for hitting a 3-0 pitch. But yeah, I think as a general manager, you are worried about anytime those unwritten rules are broken and the retaliation that occurs, could affect, not only injuries to your players on one pitch, but it could ultimately culminate in a response from the whole team. And that's why benches clear. And that's why you have ejections and fines and suspensions. And sometimes people get hurt. So, yeah, I mean, the unwritten rules of baseball are clearly enforced in such a way that sometimes it can be a huge detriment.
Yeah. So the couple of things, one is a 7-3 lead is not like a 12-3 lead. I mean, you can get 4 runs, in 2 innings and catch this game up, and then things change anyway. But it's like I look at it, I go, if it's 3-0 and you don't want them to swing, then just go ahead and put 4 fingers out, and just intentionally walk them, right? I mean, it's not really his fault, And then he's going for his average and all that. I mean, I can't blame a guy for hitting. And the same thing with stealing bases and all that. Go ahead.
Well, I think it's interesting that the Padres manager mentioned that I think he'd given him the take sign, which was don't swing. It's a 3-0 pitch. We're up 7 runs. It's interesting he gave him the take sign. So I think the manager was more upset that he swung at he didn't follow the signs. I think than it was anything.
And I didn't hear. I didn't hear whether Tatis had said that he missed the sign. It almost would be better if he said he missed it. Hey, we're going to cut to a commercial break here.
I think he may have missed the sign.
He may have missed the sign. So our theme is baseball. I only stunk a little is the title. All right. So here's our first trivia question.
I like it.
Yeah, I get. In 1968, I won the NL Cy Young and the season MVP with an amazing 1.12 ERA with the Cardinals. Well, that's an easy one. In my final season in 1975, I had a 5.04 ERA. So I only stunk for a short time. Who am I? All right.
Yeah.
Trivia question. That was an easy one. The next 2 ones, well, actually, the next one's a little hard, and then the one after that's a little bit easier again. All right. So that's our trivia question. 1968 won the NL Cy Young and season MVP with an amazing 1.12 ERA. That by itself should give you the hint. In final season in 1975, he had an ERA of 5.04, so he only stunk for a short time. Who is he? All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman and our special guest, Bobby Evans, former general manager of the San Francisco Giants. First trivia question, 1968, who won the Cy Young Award in the National League? Was the season MVP and with amazing 1.12 ERA with the Cardinals. But in 1975, he had an ERA of 5.04, so he only stunk for a short time. Who was that, Bobby?
Bob Gibson.
Bob Gibson, yeah. In fact, if you guys remember what ended up happening after that season, they lowered the mound because he hit it. In fact, 67, I think, Yastrzemski was the only one who hit over 300, and he hit like 304 because the mound was so high. Pitchers had a big advantage, so they lowered the mound. All right, so Bobby, 3 World Series in 5 years with the San Francisco Giants, and kind of interestingly enough, after you stopped working for the Giants, they seem to get worse. I know Farhad Zaidi's, he seems like a good guy, but what do you think's going on with them?
Well, they're in transition. I mean, there's really trying to restart from scratch in a sense, and there's a lot of guys, veteran guys that still want to win and still wish they were part of a winning formula. But right now they're in a rebuild, and that's that you take your lumps during the rebuild, and it's probably a good year to be rebuilding with 60 games because you won't feel as many pains of a long season when you only have 60 games. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, nobody likes to lose, but sometimes taking a step back as an organization, it allows you to get stronger in areas where you're not strong. And part of that's building up the farm system. Part of that's kind of resetting your payroll, and that's the advantage that they'll have: short-term pain, but hopefully long-term gain.
And how do you and then I'll let Russell pop in too. How do you do that as a general manager where you almost kind of know in your heart it's kind of a throwaway season? I mean, how can you go in day after day, trying to have a winning attitude when you sort of feel like it's not going to happen?
Well, I mean, we never intentionally let our team struggle. I mean, historically, but that's part of the wave now is to let your team struggle and to allow for short-term pain and long-term hoping for long-term gain. I mean, we had a 4-year run, 06, 07, and 08 where we struggled a lot, and never did we intend to struggle, but we struggled. But in the process, we benefited from those struggles because we got higher draft picks, ultimately helped us rebuild our farm system. We got the benefits of Lincecum and Bumgardner, and at that point graduated Matt Cain, and then ultimately we added Posey. So those years of struggle allowed for, really a nice run of success. Again, it was never intending to struggle. It was just, what happened. And in this case, allowing for the struggle will hopefully result in some success up the line. But every loss is painful. I think it's painful even probably if you intend to lose. I don't think anybody intends to lose, but to the extent that they know that they've not, invested in the current club with the anticipation of the future. Again, we didn't experience that directly. I mean, we experienced some tough years, but never, did we want to experience that in anticipation of the future. We were trying to win every game right now, all the time. And that was really our mentality throughout the Bonds era. And it has been consistent throughout the Posey era.
May I call you Bobby? Is that okay? I just, Mr. Evans seems so formal, but and I understand what you're saying, and yet the Giants made some very questionable moves in the offseason, including bringing back Hunter Pence, who's been maybe a very positive influence in the dugout, but he's been a complete disaster in both the field and behind the plate. Why would the Giants go back to Hunter Pence after he already left? He looked like he was, gonna, kind of finish off his career in Texas, and then the Giants bring him back, and it's been a complete problem. I mean, when you were there, I think I saw a lot of moves where you were looking towards guys with their future potential, and I was really shocked to see Zaidi go and make a big investment on somebody whose career was basically over.
Well, I can only speak to this from the outside looking in now, but you look at the value of Hunter Pence, and clearly, whatever struggles he may have in a given day, he doesn't carry those struggles to the next day. And I think it's a great example for your young players. He's an energy booster in the clubhouse, especially when you have a team that's going to struggle. He doesn't let you get down on the struggles. He keeps everybody upbeat. I mean, I think he's probably a great support to any manager he's ever played for. He's eyes and ears. He's a culture carrier, in a clubhouse. So there's other elements of his game that even when the offense might struggle or maybe the defense struggles, there's still other elements of value to him. And really he's in many ways a former face of those success stories in 12 and 14. And maybe there was some, tie into that as well. But I know that nobody intends to bring him back and have him struggle, but that's part of the game. And again, I know that this is a time where you want young players to play. And I think that's, I don't think that's lost on them. I know they just brought up Duggar. They're seeing a lot of Yastrzemski. Excuse you. Bless you. Bless you.
Sorry.
Sorry.
We're glad we're not in the same room.
That's right. We're
COVID coming through the computer.
COVID safe. Yeah, bless you though. Bless you. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's an easy answer, but I think there's some of what other things that Pitts brings to the table that may be valued more this winter.
That's the thing.
The other question that I had is, why are the Giants doing so much to draft catchers and not really looking at using their draft picks, the high draft picks, to go get another marquee pitcher? The pitching is obviously getting very old. The new pitchers that they brought in haven't really done a good job. Trevor Gott might be the worst reliever the Giants have had since Armando Benitez stepped on the mound. So, I mean, what's going on here, and why are the Giants not addressing what I see as their biggest problem, and instead they keep drafting catchers?
Well, if you look at the Cubs model was let's draft position player, and then let's go sign the pitching. And maybe that's going to be Farhan's approach. But no doubt, no one's going to win without good pitching. I mean, even a solid roster offensively without pitching, is going to struggle. And I think everyone can see that not only, with what we're doing, but, the Red Sox and other clubs that are struggling from a pitching side, it's going to affect their result. And White Sox have a very exciting offensive team. So the vote's still out on how that year will play out without the pitching that they need. But again, this is a $1 million question because, ultimately drafting pitching is part of how we had success. I mean, look at Kane, look at Lincecum, look at Bumgarner, look at, even a Brian Wilson as a closer and Romo and others. But there's different approaches, and sometimes you just figure you're going to draft position players and then go sign the free agent pitcher or trade for it.
I think you did an amazing job finding those guys, and that's what made those 3 championships, was the fact that the Giants didn't have to go and pay for a high price talent that was on the decline. I mean, we're seeing now, obviously, Samardzija hit the wall. Cueto still looks pretty good after I wasn't sure he'd be as much of a factor after the Tommy John surgery, but he looks like he's back to being close to what he was before he got injured. But I don't like this trend where the Giants are refusing to really look seriously of their high draft choices for pitching, and instead they're going position players. I think it should be the other way around. I think the Giants should maybe go free agency to find the position players and draft the pitchers like they did with Kane and Lincecum and so forth.
Well, we had a secret weapon in Dick Tidrow. I mean, Dick Tidrow, for us, was such a key evaluator of our pitching. Not only once they were in the system, or even working with Rags and Gardy in the big leagues, but particularly relative to the draft. I mean, he would go see these guys himself, and and of course he wouldn't go too many times because he didn't want other teams to know who he liked. So he would kind of shift in and out and make sure those guys get followed by our scouts. But I can't disagree that there's certainly benefits to the draft strategy, which is one we followed closely.
There's got to be so much that goes on behind the scenes that only Bobby would know, that the rest of us would not know. The stuff that goes on in the clubhouse, the stuff with Hunter Pence, how much of an asset he is to the rest of the team, even if he's not doing something specifically on the field at that time. I mean, there's, Bobby, you got to make some comments on that. That there's so much stuff that the public just doesn't know.
No, it's hard. I mean, I think it is hard. Even sometimes in your own office, you don't share all the details internally of what's going on, what's affecting a given decision. And in the clubhouse, sometimes the players don't know. And I think it's hard. But there's a lot of dynamics, in terms of, whether it's trade discussions or player nursing injuries, or players having, a new approach with their swing, or a new approach with a new pitch, and trying new things. I mean, there are a lot of different challenges exist, and it's the manager in concert with the front office is trying to put the formula together, and it isn't easy.
Okay. Hey, we're going to get to another commercial break here. Hopefully you can join us for just a little bit longer, ask you a couple more questions. We'll let you go. All right. Second trivia question. In my 4th season in baseball with the Cincinnati Reds in 2004, I finished 2nd in the NL by hitting 46 home runs. I only stunk a little by setting a major league record of striking out 195 times in the season also. Who am I? All right, so which Cincinnati player in his 4th season in 2004 finished 2nd in the NL by hitting 46 home runs, but he also struck out 195 times? This question's a little bit harder. All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be right back. Well, welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman. Vern Glenn's off today, and our special guest, Bobby Evans. Second trivia question. In my 4th season in baseball with the Cincinnati Reds in 2004, I finished 2nd in the NL by hitting 46 home runs. I only stunk a little by setting a major league record of striking out 195 times in that season. Almost sounds like a Babe Ruth, doesn't it? He struck out a lot of home runs. Who was that player?
Now you got me. I don't know. I don't know.
The only Cincinnati guy I can think of is Chris Sabo, and he was that's well before.
That was before, yeah. Adam Dunn.
Oh,
Adam Dunn. There you go.
Yeah. So don't worry, the next question's a little easier on that. So, Russell, go ahead. I know you're.
Yeah. So in 2010, that was a real surprise to Giants fans to get a championship in 2010. Even though I could see it building and building towards that, I wasn't sure the team was ready to win a title in 2010. Yeah. And in 2014, they shouldn't have won a world championship, but Madison Bumgarner basically put the team on his back and got it to win. 2012 to me is the perfect year, and I wanted to have you take us back to 2012 because you've just gotten off of Buster Posey's devastating leg injury. huge disappointment with Carlos Beltran. The team could have easily just been a one and done World Series victor. You know, we look that the floor is littered with lots of teams that won one and then they're done. I mean,
but they scratched and
Cubs
clawed
are
their
going to
way
win
in the
another World
playoffs.
Series. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think. And do you think the Houston Astros are going to win another World Series? I don't think so. So, what was it about 2012, and how did you go into 2012 feeling like? Were you going to win a title, or is it like this is a make or break year? How did you feel about 2012?
Well, it was coming off of probably 2011 was the best all-around pitching performance of the Giants team in my recent memory at the time, and it was we had added Vogelsong, of course. You know, Zito had a much better year in 12. We still had Kane, we still had Lincecum. I mean, it was a magical year in 11, and then we moved into 12, but we couldn't put it together offensively after losing Posey in May. So I think we looked at 2012 as a year where we needed to elevate our game defensively and offensively, and hope we can hold our pitching together. We still had the big four relievers, although Wilson at that point was ultimately went down on us. Didn't finish the 12th season as I recall, but big additions for us were Melky Cabrera in the offseason, Angel Pagan in the offseason, and then Brandon Belt now taking over first base. Crawford, his first full season at shortstop. So there, and now we have Posey back. So there was a lot of momentum, in our favor. And, and at the same time, Pablo had retaken, third base on an everyday basis with Uribe, having done free agency with LA. We still had Huff, that would balance.
Oh, that's right. And Scudero at second.
And Scudero as well. And so, and Scudero, of course, was an addition, at the trade deadline, and then ultimately, we traded for Pence, at the deadline. So it was a magical year in a lot of ways, and in some ways, coming off 11, we thought we had a chance, because in fact 11 we thought we had a better chance, but we didn't end up even making the playoffs. Beltran was a key acquisition for us in 11 that didn't pan out. Because he spent probably 10 days on the DL or 15 days on the DL, which, was really the difference in us making the playoffs.
Well, yeah, it was amazing that I still remember, the against the Reds and St. Louis, just like being down to the wire and then coming back. Yeah, it was
cockroaches.
So, Bobby, for the audience who doesn't, they know that you're not the general manager now. Are there any prospects out there? I mean, it's kind of a weird year because we're not going to have a full season.
Well, I've got a good system. I think that they're ranked top 10 right now, and I think they've drafted some top guys in the last couple of years, but left over from my time as general manager. I mean, Marco Luciano, arguably maybe announced by MILB or Baseball America as the top prospect in all of baseball. I don't know if he'll end up as the top guy or certainly top 5.
How about for
baseball?
Actually, what I meant was about for yourself. It's a short year. Yeah, I appreciate your analysis about the Giants, but for yourself, it's like are teams looking to do changes during looking for general managers during the short season, or are they just going to kind of stay with what they got and look for next year?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I don't know. I think that I've never been one to root for others' hardship for my benefit. I just would love to join a front office with a current general manager who, wants to have, a good team approach and where I can contribute. Because I've been a part of the, with longtime front office with Brian Sabian. I mean, we worked very closely together, and, all felt like we had an opportunity to, to partner and influence the direction. And so I think just having someone that, I can, learn from, as well as maybe, my experience can benefit, maybe a younger general manager, that would be great too. So you don't know. I mean, I think it'll be hard for ownerships to make much change after a 60-game season, but, every front office, transition happens somewhat unexpectedly oftentimes. And so we'll just have to see. But again, my hope is not necessarily to find someone to replace, but find somewhere to join.
I think Bobby's got one of the most humble general managers out there.
And where do you see the future of baseball after this year? Do you think COVID will continue to have lasting effects on the way that baseball manages its crowds, manages the stadium, manages its players? Or do you think this is just going to be 1 year? Okay, it's just a little weird. Next year we'll go back to, being what we were before. Or do you think it's going to change forever?
I don't think it'll change forever. I do think there's going to be, still time, for the country to regain confidence, to go back to the ballpark. And I think that, I think the NFL's a, current testing ground for that. I mean, I saw that the Patriots announced that they're only expecting 20% capacity for this season, which is a huge, huge deal. Of course, TV revenue generates the most income for NFL franchises, but not so much in baseball. I think there's really a dependence upon, the fan support. And so, I do think it's going to take more time. I don't think 2021 will be a return to what we've expected in the past. I think it'll almost be a sort of a next normal or a new normal for a time being. But I think we'll in time we'll see a return to the ballpark and more the normal way of life. Assuming that there's a vaccine and there's no other pandemic around the corner.
They may do a situation where again they open up only 20% of the seats, and then slowly they might start to increase that as things seem to get better, or something along those lines.
Sure.
Bobby, do you enjoy watching the game right now? Is that something that do you watch a lot of baseball, or you're waiting for this season to get itself together and then really getting into it next year?
No, I love watching the game, and I stay up late into the night, sometimes watching the highlights, for a second time, just because it's still exciting. I mean, it is amazing how, the game is so dependent on its fans and to create the environment and the atmosphere. I mean, even a walk-off, home run, last night against the Giants, and you can just sense the excitement of the team, but yet it loses a lot of luster when there's no fans in the stands. But I love watching the game and seeing guys, that I followed over the course of their career, as well as young guys that are getting an opportunity, at other clubs, as well as, the Giants and others. So I still think it's exciting baseball, and I'm glad baseball's, taking a shot at playing this season, even if it is short.
I didn't notice the fans after the home run last night. I was too busy beating up my couch.
Yeah.
I know. What do they take the little cardboard things and go up and down with them, or I mean, they have the noise, but which it sounds pretty authentic, but it's got to be kind of weird for the players too. At least they don't have people booing them or throwing things at them, from that end of it, so they can just concentrate on the game only. But I wonder how much it kind of takes out of their steam a little bit,
Yeah, the Angels don't even have cutouts, so it's you see at AT&T Park or Oracle Park, there's a ton of cutouts, a lot of fans. What I enjoy about that is just seeing faces that you recognize. So.
But you have to pan in on.
That's right.
Well, Bobby, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on again. You've been a
huge honor. Yeah. Huge honor.
Yeah, a friend of Sports Econ 101.
A bucket list item has been removed off of my bucket list.
Hey, how do you like that? You are a bucket list item. How do you like
absolutely,
that?
Absolutely. Tremendous honor to talk to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My pleasure.
All right. Got a couple of minutes here. Again, if you want to stick around, got a couple of things we want to talk a little football here. Both Kittle and Travis Kelce got their huge contracts. And then so Kelce bought a building from his new contract to help inner city kids. So it's really kind of neat to see some of these guys, they're taking their extra money and doing good with it.
Well, I'll sign off. It's good to see you guys.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you, Bobby.
Okay. He's a good guy.
Tremendous. Thank you for bringing him in as a guest.
He's been on a couple of times, and I talked to him over the weekend, just, personal stuff, and then just said, hey.
It's amazing he could even give us that much time.
Yeah. He's just genuinely a good human being. We like that.
And I hope he finds another team if he's looking to GM another team. I'm sure he has a lot that he could.
That's the thing is, it's not like he's some guy who's never done anything. I mean, he can say
he's 90 years old. Or that he's 90 years old and just wants to retire. Look,
that's a good point.
you see Dusty Baker still out there. I think Dusty Baker's going to be done as a manager when he's in a coffin.
Yeah.
I mean, and even then they might dig him up and do like a Weekend at Bernie's type thing, where they might, computer animate him.
I know, it's like every once in a while I kind of tease, well, not tease, but when Burns says he ran into Willie Mays, and I said, well, you better get a uniform to fit him now, because they need him. I don't care whether he's 89 years old. They could
Giants could use Giants. Yeah. I don't think he'd be hitting much worse than Hunter Pence.
What's Hunter hitting now?
I think he's 3 for like 35 or 40 or something. So
and one of those threes
119. Yeah, the Mendoza line seems like a galaxy away for.
So, and it's funny because sometimes, Willie Mays went 0 for 19 or something, or 0 for 17 in his career when he first started his career. So, but now obviously Hunter.
That was the last time he went 0 for 19.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. But some of these guys,
it's different when you have a guy starting out and it's rough. It's different than when you're near the end of your career.
Yeah, no, that's true. And then Willie, towards the end of his career, was getting kind of a little choppy there in the outfield, but we still love him anyway. Okay, here's our third trivia question. Again, and
I have nobody to help me out.
I know. The theme is baseball. I only stunk a little. I went 31-6 and 24-9 in 1968 and 1969. Talking to pitcher. That should give you a hint. 31-6. Who was the last 30-game winner? After that, I pretty much stunk, as my total record after that was 17-34 over the next 3 years. 2 Cy Young Awards and the AL MVP in my career, but the Hall of Fame would not consider me. Who am I?
Right, and you're beating guys that were alive when that were playing before I was basically born.
Yeah, but you'd still know this guy. You might know him for his antics off the field, but he was actually the last 30-game winner, and he went 31-6 in 1968, and I believe they won the World Series in 19.
I can only think of Tom Seaver.
No, that was he was for the Mets. This is an AL pitcher. All right, see you Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back with some closing.
All right, let me see.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Russell Jackman, and we thank Bobby Evans again for joining us. Always a good guest. So the third trivia question on baseball, I only stunk a little. So this guy went 31-6 in 1968 and then 24-9 in 1969. And after that, though, he pretty much stunk, as he was 17-34 over the next 3 seasons. But he won 2 Cy Young Awards, and he was the AL MVP 1 year. But the Hall of Fame won't consider him. Who was he? Who was the last 31 game? Who was the last 30 game winner?
I can only think of Vida Blue. That's the only thing that's coming into my mind.
Denny McLain.
Danny McLean.
Okay. For the Tigers, right? They won the World Series.
Again, a little bit before my time, really. So.
Yeah, but still, come on. You are a baseball fan.
Baseball history I'm not as adept at as I am, say, the NBA or the NFL.
Okay. I'm going to make that a little note. NBA for Russell.
And, of course, you got wrestling. Wrestling is something that you still haven't stumped me on. So
Really?
Yeah.
I could come up with some wrestling stuff that you wouldn't know. All right, but anyway, we're going to
I know I could come up with stuff you don't know.
That is for sure. More than the other way around. You're absolutely right. All right, here's our thoughts for the day. Sandy Koufax said, I became a good pitcher when I stopped trying to make them miss the ball and started trying to make them hit it. That sounds kind of interesting. I don't know exactly what he did to do that, but I thought that was kind of cool. And Muhammad Ali said, the old Cassius Clay, right? He said, if you even dream of beating me, you better wake up and apologize. I like that. All right, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Adios, America.
Good night.